Welcome to Living Vividly, the podcast where health, wellness, and curiosity collide. I'm Jackie, the founder of Vivid Health and Wellness, your guide on this journey to living your happiest and healthiest life.
My co-host Daphne, the unconventional dietitian, is always ready to shake things up and bring a fresh perspective to your wellness journey. And we can't forget Dustin, our producer, who keeps everything running smoothly behind the scenes. Together, we'll chat with health and wellness experts along with everyday people who have inspiring stories and practical insights to share. If you're ready to nourish your body, move better, and discover simple ways to thrive, you're in the right place. And hey, if you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to leave us a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Today, we're diving into a topic that might be new to some of you, but it's all about healing, balance, and connection, Reiki. We're so excited to have Jan Hettich with us. She's a Reiki Master with years of experience helping people tap into the natural energy that flows through all of us. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome back to my home.
I'm glad to be here.
Jan is also my mother-in-law.
So I've spent a few hours here.
Yeah. For someone that has no idea what Reiki is, can you explain it in super simple terms?
Yeah, well, yes. Reiki is a foreign word because it is a Japanese word. So Reiki, I break it down into two parts, Rei and Ki. It's universal life force energy. So it is an energy that is inside of us and all around us. So Reiki is a way of tapping into that natural energy that is everywhere. It's universal, and it's tapping into it and letting it flow through the practitioner to the receiver.
So energy, this is going to be a hard one, I think, to really conceptualize. I know that we have energy everywhere. All things are made of energy. Even that is hard for me to conceptualize. But do you have any other words to explain energy?
Yes, because when you think about energy, you think, if you think it in an obscure way, then it's difficult. But when you think about it, we have energy in our light bulbs. We cannot use the light bulb unless we turn it on. Mm-hmm. So when you're going to get a Reiki treatment, it's just like asking for that particular kind of energy to come to you and through you. So it works the same as any electrical impulses. Our body's also electric.
Okay.
So to think about it, you can think about it in scientific terms. If it can make you more comfortable or more aware of how it works.
I think most people would think of energy as I've got energy. I've got the energy to do something, or I don't have the energy. I do not have the energy to go play with the kids or to go, do something that requires a lot of physicality, I guess is the word that I'm thinking.
And when people say that, you have to then take that next step when you're doing energy work is, where am I getting this energy from?
Okay.
The energy just isn't coming from within you. It's kind of coming to and part of you. It's subtle, but their energy comes from somewhere.
I think this definition might help kind of everybody. Energy is defined as the ability to do work or cause change. In physics, it's the capacity for doing work, and it can exist in various forms like potential, kinetic, thermal, or electrical. Energy can be transferred from one object to another or transformed from one object to another, but it cannot be created or destroyed.
That's literally what I was about to say, is there's that scientific theory or fact maybe, that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be transferred. And I feel like that's what you're doing, because every little cell in our body is energy, is making it work.
It's the positive and the negative. So you have that positive energy, and your body, for instance, your body would be the negative. So you'd have that positive and negative to make the whole.
Okay.
But everything works on vibration. As Tesla would have said, if you want to understand the universe, think of energy as frequency and vibration.
Okay.
And so that is basically what we're working with. And any subtle energy healing therapies works with that basic concept.
So how would someone, or why would someone want to get Reiki done? How would that help their body?
Okay, when Reiki is given, you lay on a massage type table normally, and you don't take your clothes off. You lay there, and you're receiving energy through the person who is giving it to you. It doesn't come from the person, but through the person. And it helps you become into a very relaxed state. And we know the relaxation response helps the body physically and mentally to let anything flow better within your system. The blood flows better when you're relaxed. Your headaches are less because you're not as tense. So it has a relaxation response, but it also puts a person in sort of a meditative state. So they can be within themselves, maybe reflecting on a particular idea or a particular problem they're having. So it helps a person feel more connected with themselves and with others. So it works well with any other modality they're using. It works well with any religious belief they have. It works well with, if they go to a modern medicine, it works well with that. It works well with any other massage, sound therapy. It just flows with it. I went to a massage therapist once, and without her even telling me, I knew she was Reiki trained. You could feel that energy come through from her massage. So it just works so well and amplifies, the other things in your life for your healing to take place.
So let's talk about the religious aspect, because you mentioned that it works well with religion, but I would suspect that people who are highly religious might find this to be off-putting, and they might feel like it's going against their religious beliefs. So how would you weave this or show that religion and Reiki can coexist together and even support one another?
Yeah, that's a very good point, because people have had the misunderstanding that it is separate, but it actually is not in and of itself a religion at all. Mm-hmm. It's a therapy. Like any other therapy. It just happens to work with the energies that are already there. So it has no judgment. It has, one of the biggest things about Reiki is it does not cause harm. And it flows and is very accepting, but it is not a religious belief.
What do you mean one of the biggest things with it is that it does not cause harm?
Does not. That when we're trained as a Reiki practitioner, one of the main things is harmlessness, which means we treat without judgment and we just deliver the energy. But the energy, to me, was designed for us to be able to transmit it to others, and you can never get too much or too little. Your person that's receiving it will take what they want.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got you.
Yep.
In what they want.
In what they want.
What they accept, kind of.
Correct.
Interesting.
Correct. They're actually the healers.
Okay.
And the energy is there for them. The Reiki practitioner is just the conduit for that energy, and you give it, and it flows to them. Now, when you're as a Reiki practitioner, you have to be careful because you can't treat, you can't diagnose, you're not going to prescribe anything. We're not, unless you truly are a medical person, which a lot of them are in Reiki. They've been trained as a doctor or nurse or whatever. You don't work outside your practice. So you're very careful of, what you tell someone afterwards and how your approach to them is, because it's really not you that's doing the healing, it's the person who's receiving.
That makes me think about something that I actually heard recently, because you said the person giving Reiki is just the conduit. Like, you are a healer, but the person receiving Reiki is really the true healer.
Correct.
I feel like a lot of energy workers, maybe there's just a few that I know, but there's an ego part of that can be really dangerous, where like, oh, I'm doing this for you. Is that something, like, how do you balance that ego?
You as a Reiki practitioner have to learn how to put that at the door, because you've got to remember you're just becoming a channel, and you're just allowing yourself to be that channel and being the director of where the energy is going to go, because it still needs to be directed. So you're going to go to the person and then direct the energy. And because we're working with energy, we're working with the energy fields of the receiver. So we have, as we know, 7 main energy fields within the body. And each energy field works from the top of the head right down to the bottom of the spine.
So are those what we would know as chakras?
Chakras.
Okay.
And then I can work with the 21 minor chakras as well. So you're working with those, because when you work and with those particular ones, you're going to hit everything that's physical within the body as well.
So let's talk about the chakras. Can you give us a breakdown of the 7 chakras?
Yeah, there's 7 main points. We have one at the top of the head, and that's where the pineal gland is. And we have one right here between the eyebrows, and that's where the pituitary. Then you drop down the throat. They're all related to a gland. So your thymus, and your heart chakras with the, right there. Of course, that's the heart. Thymus, and the solar plexus right here, right above the belly button, and right below the belly button you have your sacral, and at the very bottom of the spine is your root chakra. And each has a vibration, and each, because of that vibration, has a color, because every vibration has a tone and a color. And that corresponds with each of the chakras. When I'm teaching Reiki, I think it's very important that people understand that system so they know where they're working within the energy system and when they're working with the physical part of the body.
So each chakra correlates with a gland, but it also correlates with like other non-physical things, right?
Correct. You have the layers of your being also. You have the, some people, there's an aura around you, an energy field around you, but you also have layers outside of your physical body. And you have like one that's really close, that's called the etheric or vital body. You have the one next out there is your emotional. Then you have your mental, and then you have the spiritual, which is, and that all works at different layers of vibration. I liken it to water, because water you can solidify into an ice cube, but then it can warm it up. You get those molecules, everything's warmed up. Now it's water. So it's moving faster and at a higher rate. And when you get even a higher rate, it turns into steam, but it's still the same. It's just those layers of existence.
So it's not a religion. It's not necessarily fully science. What is it? More of a belief system?
Yeah, I guess it could be in a way. I think it's a belief, but it's also based on science. And I think we're becoming more and more aware of like vibration and how it works, and that it actually has tones and frequencies, and they're rated. And we've used tuning forks for years, and that's something we know they vibrate at a certain rate. And people have studied color therapy for years, the same thing, and that's why you can use all these modalities, and you will discover that, life is easier, and it becomes more... I'm
not against any of this, but I was with you with the science stuff until I'm just super interested until the vibrations, where the glands are and everything. When we started talking about the out of body parts, where does that come from? Like, what's the basis for it?
Well, it is science.
They've done, be able to take photographs. I don't know if I can remember the name, Karen, I think it's Kiran or something like. They actually were able to photograph that, and monitor that. I worked at
like a radiating energy.
Correct. It's a radiate. When you go and someone's too close to you, you can feel it. That there's just they're too close, or you say I can feel their energy.
And this isn't separate from science in the fact, like yesterday you shared a study with me that I think they were showing that Reiki has reduced pain in cancer patients. Wasn't that the
correct?
science?
It's used in hospice frequently because it helps to reduce the pain. Now, I'm not sure scientifically how that happens. If it just is allowing the patient to become more relaxed so things aren't as tight and the pain is lessened, whether it allows the medication they're on to be more absorbed.
So you're saying it doesn't directly stop pain.
Relaxes your body so that it can go into a healing state.
It's beyond what
really
our science recognizes.
Beyond our comprehension, but it's there. Sometimes we just have to trust. Reiki is not a religion. In a way, it's a spiritual in the way that you have to have the faith that it's going to work.
Well, it's kind of crazy because when gravity first came out, we had to trust that gravity was going to take us down or keep us on Earth. Yeah. And so it's kind of
you had to trust you weren't going to float away.
Right. Yeah. It's such a new science that it's at the trust part.
And it's such an old.
But it's old. Yeah.
It's an old form of healing, but I think as we've become more knowledgeable and we understand things more, our minds are beginning to figure out how it's actually working. And I think science, this isn't magic, but I think science is magical. So, I just think all of it is so fascinating. And I find that people receive it, sometimes they give me feedback, sometimes not. But I've seen people receive Reiki and then all of a sudden, you know what? I'm going to do something else for a living. So it gets them going. It starts them on a road that maybe they were stagnant with or they wanted to take another direction.
So how do you, when you get started, as the energy is running through you to someone, how much conversation do you have with them beforehand to be able to know how or where to direct the energy based on the chakras?
I am very careful to explain what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Because you don't want them to have a misunderstanding that they're getting a massage or you're going to be moving your hands. So as you place your hands, I start at the head, mm-hmm. you leave your hands there 3 to 5 minutes. But the more you practice it, the more you can start getting that sensation of what you feel. And you'll get an intuitiveness or just a knowingness of when to move your hands. Now, I always cover the entire body. Because, I won't know sometimes if there's something going on until I'm in the area.
So you're not necessarily interviewing them to see, you need more love, so we're going to give you the heart chakra energy. Okay.
No, it really, if they want to talk to me about it, they can. They have a concern, they can tell me, but I'm still going to do the whole session with them. Because it works with energy, sometimes I feel like there's a magnetic pull, mm-hmm. And I'll just stay there until I don't feel that sensation anymore. So, and just because they draw a lot of energy doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong or there's something going mm-hmm. on. It just means they needed something there for a particular reason.
Whenever you are feeling, that's something that you've learned over the years.
Correct.
To notice
you have
what you're feeling.
And everybody, because we're all made different, everybody will feel that energy a little bit differently. So you just start, if you are a Reiki practitioner and you're just starting out, I always tell them, be patient because it's so subtle what you feel. You may or may not feel anything. If the person's energy is really quiet, you may not feel anything because this energy work, you're on the table, but it's done very quietly. Mm-hmm. I don't speak. I don't talk. I tell them when I'm starting and I tell them when I'm ending. But I let them know what I'm going to be doing so they aren't like, well, what is she going to do next? I don't want them thinking what I'm doing. I want them to kind of get into relaxation and thinking, breathing. And I have soft music playing so that to try to get those busy brains mm-hmm. to settle down while they're on the table.
So you mentioned prior to us getting started that you were an orthopedic nurse.
Yes.
And so that seems obviously very different from this. What got you into being a Reiki practitioner?
Well, actually, nursing is probably why I went into it.
Okay.
Because there was a time in nursing back in the 1980s, the nurses were practicing something in the hospital, something called therapeutic touch, given almost the same way, very similar theories, but instead of the energy coming through them, it was coming from them. And so they were getting exhausted.
Drained.
So I kind of heard about that. And then all of a sudden this little word came to me, Reiki, and I went. So I went and took the class. It was taught at a local hospital. And that was the first time I didn't even know what it was. Had never experienced it. Didn't know what a chakra was.
So you were doing the therapeutic touch before?
No, I just had read about it. And then this other thing came through to me. I don't even know where I heard it, but I kept hearing the word. So when it came to the local hospital to learn, a lot of other nurses and myself were taking the class. So it works really well in the medical field.
Okay.
And there are some hospitals, I don't know about locally. In Michigan, the U of M hospital utilizes Reiki practitioners. A lot of the hospices utilize Reiki practitioners. And it just augments what they're already getting from the medical world. I would never tell someone to quit using what their physician has already guided them to do. Because, unless you are a physician, you know, that would just be breaking all the moral and ethical laws of Reiki or any energy therapies. MSU is actually Michigan State University. I worked there in their student health center, and they allowed me to set up a clinic for Reiki, massage, and reflexology. And they also sent me for all my further training in Reiki.
So how long have you been doing this?
25 years. So I didn't do that as my sole income because, I would have been living on a shoestring. But, I was in nursing and I had a clinic afterwards. And then when MSU had me open a clinic there for them, then I just did it there.
Okay.
So it was wonderful.
I can see why, as we're talking, why some people might think of this as super woo-woo or witchcrafty, but it's not.
How can you explain that without just saying it that way? Yes.
I never ran into that in Michigan so much because I think it had become more familiar. But I did have someone call me a witch here once, and I was kind of taken back because I never thought of it in that aspect. So I had to kind of think about how am I going to, explain this to people. And I just think that there was a time that not the Pope that just passed, but the Pope that was before him had spoken negatively about Reiki. And I realized that he had really probably been given wrong information. There was some misunderstanding of what it was. Like, I think there was a thought that it was some sort of cult or, we were going to use all this float around the room. And that's just not the case. And it's actually...
Did you say float around the room?
Whoa. People have kind of interesting ideas about energy therapies, but it's actually nothing to do with witchcraft. I don't even know anything really basically about witchcraft. So I try to reassure people.
That's what she wants you to believe.
Yeah.
Jan gets real annoyed when people call her a witch.
Yeah, because man.
No, but that's cool.
You just have like a spiritual vibe, and that's unusual sometimes for other people. But I do feel like that ancient wisdom and the ancient healing techniques people are realizing now that they were correct and they were onto something. We've gotten so modernized and we rely on this Western medicine approach to everything when really there was so much wisdom to what our ancestors did.
Yeah, this is a very old technique. Very old. It's a very ancient. People have been doing it for eons of time.
One of my middle school algebra teachers did Reiki, and someone had a migraine and she was like, well, let's see if this works. And they stayed after class, and I was like, she's doing magic on the students.
It's kind of changing the subject, but when someone has physical pain, you can feel it. You can feel it in your hands. You can feel you can kind of just run your hands over and you can tell, but you can feel it because there's so much energy trying to fix that spot. And the physical body itself is radiating everything. The white blood cells are going there. So you're going to feel a more intense
it heats up in that area.
Spot. Yeah. You can just feel it. And I think in ancient times, one of the greatest healers that walked the face of the earth practiced hands-on.
Are you talking about Jesus?
Yes. And he practiced hands-on healing. And he said, whatever I do, you can do better.
But he was really good at it.
He was excellent at it.
He was the best.
And
he was the OG.
Yeah. The Usui, the man that sort of... He was from Japan back in the early 1900s. He was challenged he was a professor at a university. He was challenged by his students to learn that type of healing. Well, if Jesus healed, how did that happen? They were questioning. And why aren't we still doing it to this day? So if that was this, he had the technique down pat.
So as the practitioner, whenever you're saying the words that you describe as that any energy is coming through you, where is that energy coming from?
That is the question of all time. It's coming from the universe.
Okay,
it's
just
coming
like
from that life
you're just
energy.
using it, like filtering it through
Correct.
through you to give
You're
it to someone
tapping
else.
into that life energy, that universal life energy that we live, move, and have our entire being. We cannot live without it. We can't function without it. We wouldn't be here without it.
Yeah.
So but you learn how to tap into that, and then as a practitioner, you learn how to let it just flow through you. And again, without judgment and without any expectations. And it's hard, especially when you're working on people you think, I know what they need.
Yeah.
But that's
You have to
not
remove
what
that
you do.
part. You have to,
You park your ego outside that door and you go in and you do the best.
Okay, if somebody's watching this happen, okay, they're just standing over this person with their hands over them. How is that vision different than what's actually going on?
Probably depends on the person that's watching, number one. But usually if you're just sitting there, like if I'm working on a child, I want the parent in the room. Mm-hmm. And they may just feel, they've never commented, but they will feel they're very quiet. And I think they just notice a quietness that comes in.
What's actually going on? Like
what's happening when you're putting your hands on somebody?
That's when you're actually laying your hands on, you are just laying your hands quietly and very gently on each one of those energy systems that we talked about. And it's, right from the head to the ears, the throat. I always go behind the neck, a lot of tension in through here, the heart, and everyone's dressed. And it's over the solar plexus and over that root chakra. You don't put your hands there, you just over top. And then I go to the knees and the feet for grounding them. So they feel that,
So what's the difference between you doing it and someone who's never studied this doing it?
When you are trained for Reiki, they give you what they call an attunement. And that is something that helps you raise your vibrations up enough to have that energy flow through you.
So it's coming through Jan, out of her hands.
Out of my hands. So it's in through here, down my arms, out my hands. So it's always given.
And not everybody's attuned enough to be able to transfer that.
For this particular type of of energy therapy, correct.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
That's the uniqueness of this. Since I started learning this, I've studied every energy medicine I could possibly. And I even learned another energy therapy called esoteric. Very fascinating. I learned a lot. But Reiki was the thing that called to me, so I went back to it.
What is esoteric? Like
that's also balancing. It's a balance with all the energy systems, but you don't have to have an attunement. So
okay.
And there's a lot of energy therapies out there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I think you find the one that works for you, or you go to a couple, like even acupuncture, reflexology, massages.
Like sound healing even.
Oh, sound healing. Yeah, sound healing.
That's why I wasn't sure if y'all used like tuning forks or like some kind of...
I don't. I use a standalone Reiki. I've kind of toyed with the fact of learning some forks, and I could probably blend that in with Reiki.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've mentioned crystals before. Do you use crystals in every session that you do? And why would you use crystals?
I do use crystals generally somewhere in the room to balance energy, because crystals in themselves have energy, and they, vibrate at certain rates the same as our chakra systems do. Or I'll have one under the bed to kind of stabilize that energy. But that's a very interesting world.
A whole nother one.
That's a whole nother world. But crystals augment Reiki therapies really, really beautifully.
You mentioned playing music, soft music. How does that not affect the vibrations you're trying to...
This music I play, actually, the man that does it, his name is Duder, and he writes music specifically for Reiki. It's very soft, and it's in the background.
Got an answer for everything.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. Because
I don't play anything that's loud or, like a lot of drums that gets, anything that's really stimulating. This is just a very flowing music, very quiet. And you don't have to play music. I do just because it gives the person something to kind of think about or concentrate on until they can get their body to relax.
Yeah.
It's very healing music. I mean, all of his songs are called like Healing Hands, and I play it now.
Hands of Light.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful music.
Play it whenever my youngest is trying to fall asleep. I'm like, we're listening to some Reiki music. Hypnotize you to sleep. What are some benefits of Reiki that people might be surprised, or like an experience after a Reiki session for the first time? Have you ever had anyone have a surprise?
That's some people actually, and they aren't. I worked with someone who was a social worker, and she said afterwards, "Man, I kept seeing colors. I've never seen a color like that before. It was a gunky looking yellow, and all of a sudden it got bright." And it's like things that you don't expect, from people that you don't expect. And some people see colors that's, but not always.
When you say see colors, do you mean they're just laying there and all of a sudden they start seeing
in their
colors?
mind? I don't know if they are seeing it behind their eyelids or if they're in their brain,
eyes.
But their eyes are closed.
Okay.
Yeah, you always have your eyes closed. So I've had, and not everyone sees colors. Yeah. It's just something that can happen, or they'll feel like, gee, was my body moving up and down? I'm really feeling like my body was. I said, no, your body didn't move at all. So they'll have different sensations like that, or, man, I felt I was jerking. And I said, you weren't jerking at all. So, yeah, things like that.
And so do you think that that's just a shift in the energy, in their own energy?
So. Yeah. It's they're absorbing it. And so they're physically feeling it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Could it be anything? I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm playing the skeptic.
That's good.
But it's interesting. Is there like a chance that they've never just sat still before, like that calming and still?
I did. I had a woman, and it was one that made me feel sad afterwards. But she would come to me because it was the only time in many, many years that somebody actually touched her physically, gently, and she'd like to come just because it was so soothing to her to have someone just gently laying their hands on her. And Reiki energy is so loving that she could feel that transmitted through.
Oh, that's sweet.
That's cool.
So
how do you feel after a Reiki session? Does it change your energy at all? Are there times?
For me as the giver, you always it's kind of cheating, but every time you give Reiki, you receive Reiki.
Oh, okay.
So every time you give it, you receive it.
It's like thank you, you're welcome.
So,
thank you,
thank you, thank you. I should be paying you now. So that's just a benefit all the way around. And as a practitioner, you can treat yourself.
Okay.
Reiki. No.
So you don't ever walk away feeling like, oh, I'm so that,
oh, no.
that there was such a need for energy in this person or this area that you feel like it's taken some of your energy. Because I know that just in the medical field, there's, and not as much for me, but for a therapist and things, it's a heavy load to carry often, helping people kind of shift through just life's messiness. And so it's a practice that you have to understand and learn to not carry that along with you. So it sounds like you've done a good job of creating a separation there.
Yeah, you do create the separation, but the I call it, there is no backwash. Because the energy is going through it and out, nothing's coming back from that person to you. It's just a flow.
And you're not being drained because...
No, you don't get drained.
Versus the other hands-on therapy that they were doing in the 80s, that you were saying all the nurses were feeling drained because it was coming
They were
from
giving
them.
themselves. And nurses gave themselves anyway. So that's a draining profession. So this was really, really good because it's just coming through you and you're letting it flow to that person. The attunement is just a process that it's short, it's brief process that takes the energy that's already within a person and just bringing it up so that that flow can come through them.
When you say up, you mean like higher energy?
Higher energy,
Okay.
yeah. Their personal energies, as that vibration goes up. just a little bit.
So it can actually travel through faster.
Correct. So they can come through. It's like that river. Then you take that's blocked by garbage. You're starting to take it out and it flows.
So you're saying everybody should just get attuned?
Yeah, they should. You can do you can do healing attunements on people if you're
really.
Yeah. So
and there's different levels too. Like you're a Reiki master, obviously, but I've learned under you, I've gotten 2 levels now, and so you learn a little bit more with each one, and you get a different attunement.
Right, and you want to you start low because it'd be like.
Is it like crazy overwhelming? If you
overwhelming. I've taken I took from 2 different Reiki masters, and the first one taught level 1, and she'd have you wait 3 months, take level 2, and then a year or more before you learned the advanced master training, because you need to get used to that energy.
So you feel different as you
become more, use it more and more.
So Jackie, how do you feel? How is level 2 feeling?
It is an intro. I mean, I felt like I understood more after my second, but I also did them a day apart.
Yeah.
But I've been around Jan for a few years now. So
she's been
absorbing her good energy now for a couple years.
Secretly attuning you without you knowing.
Yeah, sneaking it in there.
Yeah. I feel very lucky to have a Reiki master as a mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And it's been life-changing for me, but it's been 25 years. But those little nudges will come for what you should be doing in life. Yeah. And I'm not saying everybody should do what I do. We need people that can treat proper nutrition, and we need people, but learning Reiki doesn't mean you have to leave what you're doing. It means it probably will make everything enhanced and move upward.
So even if you don't treat people, learning it can still...
Correct. Yeah. A lot of people learn Reiki and they never treat anybody but themselves, or kids, or dogs, or cat. You can treat animals. You can treat plants. You can treat cars. You can treat everything. Yeah. And to give Reiki, you're supposed to get formal permission. You never give Reiki to someone without their permission. With the exception of maybe someone...
dogs, plants.
You kind of get that permission on a different level.
Or if they're like incapacitated.
Like if they're in a coma, you would just have to go and either get a family member to say they would know that they would like it, or you intuitively, you would have to know. Because you just can't treat. Now, you can treat a situation, like in the store, when you pass a crying mom and baby and everybody's all tense. Sometimes I can't treat them because I don't have their permission, but I can treat the situation they're in. And so 2 aisles later, I don't hear them, the baby crying, or
that's cool.
She's not laying hands on a stranger.
I'm imagining being there and seeing it look like you're casting a spell on them.
That would be weird. That would be like, I don't think I want.
Is that whenever you witness that situation, are you just kind of doing it with your head? You're not doing this.
No, I'm just, you're just kind of saying, asking the universe, can you send them some basically love and wrap them up in some good loving energy to help them through this, a little boy that wanted the cereal and the mom's not letting him, and he's having a fit, and it's just getting tense. And so you just kind of wrap them up in that.
You also have sent Reiki long distance, which I think after you explain it is going to sound a lot like prayer.
It is very much so. Distance Reiki, you
just aiming it.
There's a way to do it distance, and and they also have to give permission. And once you have permission from somebody, or they've asked you, then you basically have them sit in a spot and you focus on them and you send them just like you would. You can pretend they're sitting in front of you as an imaginary person. You can put like a teddy bear down and pretend it's the person, whatever works. But you send this energy to them long distance, just like people do with prayer. And we know that prayer works across the world. So it's the same concept.
Yeah, that's I think how people will start understanding how it's basically the same thing. And you also have it's not a prayer group, but it's a Reiki group
that we do. We'll notify each other. Someone has asked for healing, a long distance healing, and gave us permission as a group. And as a group, we pick a time, and that person is aware of it. They'll sit quietly or lay down or whatever they want. And the group, and we're from all over the place, send Reiki at the same time to a person.
Oh, that seems powerful.
We know that it works because Jackie, knows of someone that helped her immensely. This particular type was started in Japan, back in the early 1900s, slowly got over to the United States during World War II. So it took a little while for it to be accepted here. And then once it was, started late 1970s, 80s, it really took a steamrolled and to what it is today. And now you see all kinds of stuff out there.
How would you say that Reiki has changed you over the past 25 years into becoming a different person?
Well,
or
Reiki has changed me as becoming a seeker of more knowledge to understand how these things work and present them to people in a way they can understand, but also in a non-judgmental, loving way. So they won't ever feel threatened, and then that they can start realizing that within themselves, how valuable they truly are. And that little spark can be ignited because it's there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's pretty muddy, but if you can get that layers of mud off, people they'll bloom, and they'll be the person that they wanted to be when they first came. You realize that we are just a little spark of a bigger spark, and you don't have to feel so much angst. You're here for whatever purpose you decided to come and do, and you're going to do the best you can. And not everybody's purpose is the same, or we'd all be a little lopsided. It allows others to be who they are when they're with you, and not to be like, oh, I can't say that, or I can't be this way, or I can't be. You want people to be who they are inside.
Just their most authentic self.
Yeah, their authentic self.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful, modality to practice because you can see changes in yourself and hopefully the people that are receiving. And sometimes I give 2 or 3. I may never see them again.
I would assume that that's a good thing, that you've done a good thing for them. If you never see them, if you see them for a few sessions and then you don't see them anymore, that they've gone off and
they're doing healing.
They're doing what they need to do. Yep. So it's kind of practicing that non-attachment, mm-hmm. and that's tough. At first it was like, I wonder how they're doing. Maybe I should call them. But no, that's their journey.
Yeah.
They're coming to you for their journey so they can move forward or at least start understanding their self.
What was the most skeptical person you had come in that was the most non-skeptical after? Or has anybody come in because like a loved one forced them to go? Just go. I know you don't believe that it's going to do anything.
I did. I had a person come in, and when she came in, she goes, "I'm really leery about this." I don't know why she came, because she was really leery, mm-hmm. and she said, "I'm very religious. Very, very religious." She had a crucifix around her neck, and I thought, well, I said, this is not a religion. And this is just energy flow. And what we can do, and I explained how I start from the head. She's laying down, no taking off any clothes or anything like that. And I said, if you feel uncomfortable at any time during the session, like, oh, this isn't for me, then you just let me know. And we can end. And that's perfectly fine. And afterwards, she said, I'm going to come back. So she said, I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel like it was against my religion mm-hmm. at all. And I was made me feel good, because it was like, she allowed that energy in and let it flow. So
there's no way anything that peaceful and loving can be bad. Like once you experience it, it's like, this is goodness at its core.
Yes, it is. It is. And it's gentle. Nothing threatening. It's just this nice, gentle flow. And there'll be sessions I give, and I think I didn't really feel very much. It just was so calm. And the person will say, that felt really good, and I felt really like I feel more at peace, or, I was really jittery at first, and now I'm relaxed. So that you don't know what someone's going to feel.
Yeah.
That they're all different. And you just got to trust that whatever is going to happen is what's supposed to happen.
What they need
in that flow.
I don't know if this is something that you want to talk about, but before you start a session or whenever you were teaching me, you called on the Reiki guides and you called on these, like this energy, but you also called on angels.
Yes, I do. That is not something you have to do as a Reiki practitioner, but I feel when you're working with energy, it's a good thing to call in any helpers. Like the angels
probably have some energy that they
they have a lot of energy. I always call on Archangel Michael because I want protection in that room and protection for myself and the person I'm working on. And I always call in Mother Mary because she's got that loving pink energy that just can fill the room. As we know, we change, we learn and we grow, and you don't want to stagnate. You want to keep, like the Bible said, seek and you shall receive. This is it. You're seeking and you're growing. And if you ever feel like a tug, then it probably isn't something for you, or it isn't, it's kind of going down a funny path.
Yeah.
So always kind of listen to your inner intuitive self. Like, does that feel right? That doesn't quite feel right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've had to do that too because I grew up very Catholic, and I'm still there's a lot of love that I have for the Catholic Church, and my grandmother is she's an angel, and she is very Catholic. But I've also learned that nature is my church. Like whenever I'm in the woods and I hear the breeze and the birds, and that is so spiritually igniting for me, and just like a deeper understanding of what God is or what source is.
It's basically all the same. Yeah. It's just your comfort zone, and it's okay to start to leave it, but do it gradually.
Yeah.
You don't want to, like changing diets. You don't do it like, today I'm going to be a vegetarian, and yesterday I was the biggest meat eater ever. You can't change things overnight, but just let yourself grow with that energy and learn everything that's out there. And then if it feels right to learn.
Part of it is that we have to be still long enough to be able to recognize the energy and the shift and the changes. And a lot of times in our society, we're not still long enough to recognize change or recognize patterns because our society is not, it's very driven in a different way. So stillness, I think, has a lot to do with being able to feel energy and let energy heal you in a way that, whether it's with the practitioner or not, but to be able to use energy, we have to be still.
Yes.
And that's, I think, something that we need to practice, just kind of society-wise, we need to just kind of practice stillness.
Yep. I agree. And with Reiki, that's bringing that for that person, that stillness within, so they can open up to these new ideas or ways that could improve themselves as a being, a being of God and a being of the universe, because we're all kind of here together.
Yeah. We'd be a whole lot happier if we could learn to live with one another and enjoy everyone's presence.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
We all have different gifts to give and different things to bring to the table,
and to do it without any judgment of each other, because that's our big stumbling block. We don't allow for differences, and we judge a lot, and that's something you have to always be aware of,
right,
in yourself.
Yeah, that's probably based out of fear for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fear is one of the biggest blocks in people.
Yeah,
is fear and anger. I took a meditation class, and it's called mindfulness meditation, but it teaches you how to address that when you have those feelings and how to, observe them. And it is fascinating work, and it's not that hard. Yeah. So that's when people are on the table, you get them into that state, and you just tell them, if these feelings come up, don't fight them. Just look at them.
Yeah.
Look at them while you're laying there. Just notice how it makes you feel. And all of a sudden you'll notice it kind of drifts away. So that helps.
So on a more logistical side, where is your practice?
I'm on, what is it?
Rue La France.
Rue La France.
She just moved.
Yeah, I just moved and I have to think about where in Rue La France.
She's actually with Jade Hayes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in with it. And it's beautiful. Oh, it's big windows and you see the river just flowing by. And right now it's flowing by really fast. But it's a beautiful space there. I'm really, really happy to be there.
That's wonderful.
It's very calming. She's also has good calm energy.
So before we let you go, we ask everybody one question. What does living vividly mean to you?
I think living vividly means living to your fullest, letting your inner, that little spark, come out to its brightest form.
Thanks for listening to Living Vividly. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review and subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. For more resources and details from today's discussion, check out the show notes. Until next time, keep living vividly.